Imagine you are a zebra at a waterhole in South Africa. You hear lions nearby. Bad news. But you know the rules. Lions roar, stalk, chase, and occasionally fail in a very public and embarrassing way. Then a hidden speaker plays something else. Two humans talking normally. No shouting, no gunshot, no dramatic movie music. Just conversation. And the zebra runs. So do giraffes, elephants, rhinos, hyenas, and most of the other mammals tested. In thousands of trials, ordinary human voices made wildlife flee more often and abandon the water faster than the sound of lions. That sounds ridiculous until you remember what humans are from an animal's point of view. We are slow, soft, nearly hairless apes with mediocre teeth. Yet we hunt in groups, attack from a distance, recruit dogs, reshape landscapes, and keep killing long after most predators would be full. Animals do not literally think the word monster. But many behave as if humans represent something worse than a normal predator, a threat that breaks the usual rules. And the strangest evidence is not hidden in a fossil or a cave. It is hidden in the sound of two people having a perfectly ordinary conversation. So how did the least impressive-looking ape become a creature that terrifies so much of the animal world? The short answer is that humans do something most predators cannot. We separate danger from the body. A lion carries its weapons everywhere. Its claws are attached. Its teeth are fixed. If the lion is injured, tired, or too far away, the threat drops with it. Humans are different. We can pick up a stone, sharpen a stick, stretch a cord, dig a pit, train a dog, or recruit 5 relatives who also brought sharpened sticks. Suddenly, one soft primate has become a moving collection of teeth, reach, memory, and planning. And unlike most predators, we do not need to finish the problem immediately. We can follow tracks. We can remember where an animal drinks. We can leave a trap behind and return later. We can fail today, discuss the failure around a fire, improve the tool, and try again tomorrow. A lion cannot spend the evening redesigning its mouth. That is why calling humans monsters is useful only as a metaphor. Animals are not judging our morality. They are making a forecast. A human shape, voice, scent, road, dog, or machine can predict a much larger threat than the visible body suggests. But this creates a stranger problem. How does an animal know that? A deer does not understand engineering. A zebra has never studied archaeology, yet both can react to human cues before any attack begins. To understand that, we need to stop thinking of fear as panic. Fear is a calculation. Fear looks dramatic from the outside. Wide eyes, stiff muscles, a sudden explosion of legs. Inside the animal, however, it is closer to a risk calculation. Every creature approaching a strange sound, scent, or silhouette makes a decision with incomplete information. Stay, and you may keep eating. Run, and you lose time, energy, or access to a good feeding spot. But the two mistakes are not equal. If a deer runs from a harmless hiker, it has wasted a few minutes and perhaps abandoned some excellent grass. Annoying. If it mistakes a hunter for a harmless hiker, there may be no second calculation. So, animal nervous systems often lean toward caution when the cost of being wrong is injury or death. They do not need certainty. They need enough evidence to decide whether staying is worth the gamble. That evidence can arrive through sight, sound, scent, tracks, alarm calls, or the reaction of another animal. A human voice may mean little in one place and immediate danger in another. A dog bark, an engine, or the metallic click of equipment can acquire meaning through experience. The animal is not opening a spreadsheet, but the columns are there. Food gained, energy lost, escape route available, danger remembered, and learning matters. A single bad encounter can connect a previously neutral cue with risk. Watching another animal panic can do the same. Over time, a sound does not merely describe what is nearby. It predicts what may happen next. That is why fear can arrive before the weapon, before the chase, and sometimes before the human is even visible. But this still leaves one problem. Why should the human cue carry more weight than the lion cue in the first place? The obvious explanation is that animals fear whatever looks strongest. Big body, large teeth, sharp claws, fast legs. That story works surprisingly well until humans enter the frame. A lion is dangerous because everything required to kill you is visible. You can estimate the distance, watch the muscles tighten, and decide whether the nearest tree is about to become extremely important. Human danger is harder to read. The person in front of an animal may not be the full threat. Another hunter may wait ahead. A dog may follow the scent. And a projectile can arrive from beyond the distance where teeth and claws matter. Even absence proves very little. Humans can leave danger behind and walk away. A snare does not become tired. A pit does not lose interest. Fire can change an entire escape route without chasing anything at all. This does not mean our ancestors stepped onto the savannah as instant rulers. For much of hominin evolution, our relatives were vulnerable animals. Large carnivores could kill us, steal carcasses, and turn one badly timed walk into a very short archaeological career. We were prey, scavengers, competitors, and eventually increasingly capable hunters. Evolution did not hand us a crown. It did not even give us claws. Apparently, weapon procurement was our responsibility. What changed was not the appearance of the human body. It was the growing gap between what that body looked capable of doing and what tools, cooperation, and planning allowed it to do. We did not begin at the top of the food chain. We built a route upward. And eventually, the animals around us had to learn that the weak-looking ape was no longer behaving like one. Now here is the part nobody expected. Researchers went to waterholes in South Africa's Greater Kruger National Park, where lions are real, abundant, group-hunting predators. The team placed automated camera and speaker systems near 21 waterholes during the dry season. When an animal approached, the equipment played a randomly selected sound and recorded the response. Some recordings contained lions snarling and growling. Others contained hunting sounds, dogs barking or gunshots. The controls were harmless bird calls. And then there were the human recordings, men and women speaking calmly in local languages, at conversational volume. No one shouted, "Run, zebra." They were simply talking. Across 4,238 independent trials involving 19 mammal species, the pattern was remarkably consistent. Animals were roughly twice as likely to run when they heard human voices as when they heard lions. Those that abandoned the waterhole also left about 40% faster. This was not just nervous antelope. Giraffes, zebras, rhinoceroses, and elephants reacted strongly. So did leopards and spotted hyenas, animals fully capable of ruining someone else's afternoon. Overall, 95% of the species showed a stronger response to humans in at least one of the two measurements, whether they ran or how quickly they left. Elephants made the contrast especially strange. Some responded to lion sounds by approaching or confronting the source, which makes sense for an enormous social animal capable of driving lions away. Human voices produced much more retreat. The king of beasts could sometimes be investigated. Two people having a conversation apparently required immediate evacuation, but the researchers measured behavior, not private thoughts. They did not prove that every animal everywhere fears every human more than every lion. Greater Kruger has its own history of human contact. Still, the result is difficult to dismiss. To many animals in that ecosystem, a calm human voice is not just a sound. It is evidence that a much larger danger may already be nearby. Which raises the real question: how did our voices acquire that reputation? The reputation of the human voice did not begin with rifles. Long before metal, roads, or engines, our relatives were already learning how to move danger away from the body. At Schöningen, in what is now northern Germany, archaeologists recovered an extraordinary collection of wooden hunting weapons preserved in ancient lakeside sediments: spears, throwing sticks, and a lance, found alongside animal remains connected with hunting and butchery. The age has become less tidy over time. First estimated near 400,000 years, later closer to 300,000, and redated by a 2025 study to around 200,000 years. Science occasionally moves the birthday candles after the cake has already been served, but the central point survives the date change. These were carefully shaped weapons made by an archaic human population, possibly early Neanderthals if the newer chronology is correct. Some spears were balanced in ways consistent with throwing, although researchers still debate exactly how each weapon was used. Thrown, thrust, or both, the biological equation had changed. A horse could outrun a human. A large herbivore could kick hard enough to end the discussion, but a wooden point allowed the hunter to attack before teeth, horns, or hooves could reach him. Experimental work suggests that hand-thrown replicas could be effective over distances of roughly 15 to 20 meters. The spear did not make the human faster. It made speed less important. One hunter was probably not the entire event. Making weapons, tracking animals, controlling escape routes, and sharing meat all become more reliable when tasks are distributed through a group. The evidence does not let us reconstruct one perfect hunting scene. It does show that these humans possessed planned technology capable of turning physically superior animals into reachable targets. From the prey's perspective, that was a profound change. The weak ape no longer had to catch you with its body. It only had to get close enough for an idea to reach you first. The first hunting weapons were not invented because our ancestors had suddenly become villains. They were invented because large animals contain calories, fat, marrow, hide, sinew, and bone, and because obtaining those resources with bare hands is an excellent way to become part of the archaeological record yourself. Meat provided protein. Fat and marrow supplied dense energy, especially valuable when plant foods were scarce, seasonal, or difficult to process. Cut marks and percussion damage on animal bones show that hominins were removing flesh and breaking long bones for marrow long before Schoningen. But food was only one part of the problem. The second was risk. A sharpened point allowed hunters to injure an animal without placing their entire body beside horns, hooves, teeth, or several hundred kilograms of extremely negative feedback. Cooperation spread that risk further. One person could watch an escape route. Another could drive the animal. Others could protect the group or help transport the carcass. And then there were the other carnivores. Early humans did not hunt inside an empty ecosystem. Lions, hyenas, large cats, and other scavengers also wanted meat. A carcass could become a temporary argument between species, and tools, fire, numbers, and coordinated aggression may have helped humans keep food or take access to it. None of this required hatred of animals. Predation was a survival strategy, just as it was for wolves or lions. The difference was that human solutions accumulated. A lion cub must grow its own claws. A human child can inherit a spear, a technique, a warning, and several generations of mistakes already corrected. The first weapon solved an immediate problem: how to acquire food without dying. But once knowledge could be taught, improved, and carried into new landscapes, the solution became much larger than the hunger that created it. Once humans could carry danger in tools, they were no longer restricted to the environments their bodies preferred. Grasslands were only the beginning. Clothing helped people enter colder regions. Fire created warmth, light, protection, and a way to reshape vegetation. Boats carried hunters onto rivers, coasts, islands, and eventually open water. Nets reached animals that could not be chased. Traps continued hunting while their makers slept. Then humans added dogs. We outsourced claws to stone and wood, noses to another species, and patience to holes in the ground. Each invention removed another biological limit. Humans could enter tundra wrapped in skins, cross water on constructed platforms, and begin studying whatever lived on the other side. This is why researchers sometimes describe humans as super predators. It does not mean we wear capes or win every encounter. It means our ecological reach and patterns of exploitation are unusually broad. Modern data show how far that expansion went. Humans have documented uses for roughly 14,600 vertebrate species, about one-third examined in one global analysis, and use far more species than other wide-ranging predators. And food is only part of it. Humans take animals for clothing, medicine, trade, ornament, companionship, collections, and sport. Natural predators are usually constrained by immediate energetic needs. Human demand can continue because the desired object is a feather, a horn, a skin, or a living animal in a cage. But this scale should not be projected backward unchanged. Prehistoric subsistence hunting was not modern industrial exploitation. The connection is cumulative reach. One generation learned a landscape, the next inherited that knowledge and added better tools. Eventually, an animal encountering one human was not merely facing one body. It was facing a network of weapons, companions, memory, and information that could follow it into almost any habitat on Earth. An animal does not need to survive its own terrible encounter with a human in order to learn the lesson. Sometimes it can borrow the fear of its neighbors. Wild jackdaws provide a useful example. In one experiment, researchers placed an unfamiliar person near nest boxes while playing either alarm calls or ordinary contact calls from other jackdaws. Birds that heard the alarm calls later treated that specific person as more dangerous, even though the person had not personally captured or attacked them. The warning had attached itself to a face. American crows can go further. Researchers wearing a distinctive mask trapped, banded, and released a small number of crows. Later, birds that had never been captured also began scolding and mobbing people wearing the dangerous mask after observing the reactions of others. Wildlife apparently has neighborhood alerts. No app, no subscription. Considerably more screaming. This matters because direct learning is expensive. An animal that must personally test every unfamiliar human may not survive the experiment. Social learning allows one bad encounter to become useful information for a family, flock, or local population. Parents react. Young animals watch. Group members give alarm calls. A face, voice, vehicle, or location can acquire meaning without every observer knowing why. And that meaning is local. Animals hunted by humans may flee at the first cue. Protected populations may tolerate people at a distance. Urban crows may distinguish harmless pedestrians from someone who approached their nest. Animals fed by tourists may even approach us a dangerous misunderstanding involving snacks. So, there is no universal animal opinion of humanity. There are local reputations built from experience and passed through social information. And once an entire community has learned that humans mean danger, fear can begin changing more than a single encounter. It can reorganize when and where animals live. Fear does not stop when the animal escapes. It follows the animal into the rest of its day. A waterhole may contain everything a herbivore needs, but if human activity makes that place feel dangerous, the animal may drink less, arrive later, or avoid it entirely. A feeding ground can remain full of food and still become functionally unavailable. The same thing happens with time. Across 76 studies involving 62 mammal species on 6 continents, researchers found that animals exposed to greater human disturbance became, on average, 1.36 times more nocturnal. We invented the night shift. Then we accidentally assigned it to wildlife. Moving into darkness can help animals avoid people, and in some places it may allow humans and wildlife to share the same landscape. But darkness is not simply daytime with the lights turned off. Food may be harder to find. Temperatures change. Different predators and competitors are active. An animal adapted to feed by day may now be performing the same job under worse conditions, and the effects can spread between species. In California's Santa Cruz Mountains, researchers played recordings of human speech across a large landscape. Mountain lions avoided the voices and moved more cautiously. Medium-sized carnivores reduced their activity or feeding in exposed areas. Small mammals, facing less pressure from those carnivores, used more space and consumed more food. No human fired a weapon. No animal had to die. The sound alone rearranged behavior across several levels of the food web. This is the uncomfortable part. A person hiking, talking, or passing through may have no harmful intention at all. But wildlife cannot evaluate intention. It responds to predicted risk. So humans can alter an ecosystem not only through hunting, roads, or habitat destruction. Sometimes our reputation arrives first, and the landscape reorganizes around it. So, do animals truly see humans as monsters? Not all animals, not all humans, and not in every place. What we know is that many wild animals treat human voices, scent, movement, and infrastructure as signals of predation risk. In some landscapes, those signals produce stronger avoidance than the presence of natural carnivores. But fear is not a fixed opinion stamped onto an entire species. It changes with experience. An animal repeatedly exposed to harmless people may become habituated and allow humans much closer. Urban wildlife can learn that pedestrians, traffic, and buildings offer food or predictable routines. Some prey even remain near human activity because larger predators avoid us more strongly, turning dangerous humans into an accidental shield from something else dangerous. Nature enjoys complicated paperwork. The same species may therefore behave very differently in 2 locations. One deer runs when it hears a car door. Another stands beside a parking lot and examines your lunch with the confidence of an experienced negotiator. What remains uncertain is how much human avoidance comes from learning within one lifetime, how much spreads socially, and how much has been shaped by selection across generations. The balance probably differs among species and populations. So, monster is not a thought we can place inside an animal's head. It is a description of the ecological calculation. Humans are unusually flexible, difficult to predict, and capable of causing harm far beyond the reach of the body an animal can see. Animals do not share one opinion about us. They inherit local histories and behave according to what humans have taught them. Now imagine you are the human at that water hole. You have a backpack, a bottle of water, a phone, and half a sandwich wrapped in paper. You are not carrying a spear. You are not hunting. You may be discussing the weather, your route home, or whether the sandwich was worth what you paid for it. You know you are harmless. The zebra does not. It cannot inspect your intentions. It sees an upright silhouette, hears a human voice, and responds to a species with an unusually long ecological record of arriving with tools, dogs, traps, vehicles, habitat change, and more humans. From your perspective, you are one person taking a walk. From the animal's perspective, you may be the visible edge of something much larger. That reputation is not permanent. When wildlife repeatedly encounters people who keep their distance, protect habitat, secure food, and avoid causing harm, animals can learn a different calculation. Human behavior is still teaching them what our presence means. So the real question is not whether animals literally imagine us as monsters. It is whether our history has made fear the safest interpretation. Back at the waterhole, the lion's growl belongs to a predator with familiar limits. The quiet human conversation does not reveal where the danger ends. You may only be talking about your sandwich. The zebra cannot afford to assume that is the whole plan. The lion has to roar to announce that it is dangerous. The human only has to speak.